Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final session of the two-day-long Hindustan Times Tourism Conclave 2022. It is my pleasure today to welcome a hotelier who is as reticent as he is expansive. Mr. Nakul Anand, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jamal.
Mr. Anand, the entire industry knows how you love to fly under the radar. You're constantly passing credit on to your contemporaries. Anil Chadda does this, Atul Bhalla is responsible for that, and Richa Sharma is the best at everything. But the truth is that your painstakingly exacting eye is what has led ITC Hotels into a sphere of luxury that was once questioned, but today sets standards and breaks new ground. Mr. Anand, today we're going to shine the spotlight where it deserves to be placed. We are going to talk about ITC Hotels and how it's created a unique niche for itself in the world of luxury, then take a broad look at the challenges that COVID-19 placed on the hospitality industry as a whole, and focus on the times ahead.
Look forward.
But before we start, I must offer you my congratulations. For just as we seem to be emerging from the shadows of the pandemic, you've gone ahead and launched a brand new hotel, the ITC Narmada in Ahmedabad. This weekend, HT Brunch, the magazine I edit, called it a hotel so elegant and spectacular, it almost seems too luxurious and grand for Ahmedabad. You spent 600 crores to build it, and from what we hear, it's everything that the current optimism of Gujarat deserves. Congratulations again. My first question to you is something that you will enjoy answering. Tell us about the ITC Narmada, the newest jewel in your crown.
Jamal, the best part about the ITC Narmada, and I say that this is really, come after a span. If you really look at it, our first hotel that ITC Hotels opened, or Welcome Group opened when we got into the hotel business, was that time called Welcome Group, the Welcome Group Chola Sheraton, right? That was in Chennai, right? That was in 75. Fast forward 2022, we are opening the Narmada in Ahmedabad. What is so brilliant about this company, and this is what I say, that we have a lot of flexibility to work within well-defined parameters. But this company saw a vision in 1975 before it laid the ground for its first hotel, or 73, and said all our hotels will be rooted in the soil. So in 75, we opened Chola in Chennai, that was rooted in the soil. Go on, 76, Mughal, where else but in Agra. 77, ITC Maurya, where else but in Delhi. Story goes on. The British influence in Bangalore, so the ITC Windsor, ITC Maratha, Grand Central, because it was in the center of the mills, etc. ITC Shonar, for an obvious reason, and so on and so forth. And finally, if you look at it, ITC Narmada, a fitting tribute to the Gujarat and what it deserves, etc. So what I'm really fascinated by is the vision of this company, how people have changed, chairmen have changed, presidents have changed, CEOs have changed, but we've been very consistent in our vision. We defined it at that time as nobody gives you India like we do. Our hotels will not be matchbox. Each one will be rooted in the soil and give you an experience, right? Be it by way of cuisine, be it by way of decor, be it by way of architecture, be it by way of uniforms, right? And that's exactly what we've done. So that's what I'm proud about, that we've been able to maintain the very route that ITC had defined at the inception, and yet being able to modernize, contemporize, etc. within. So there is a common thread that runs, and yet it hasn't kept us back from advancing.
So we can see that you're again passing on the credit to some great visionary who put the entire idea together and not taking credit. We do know that a lot of the credit goes to you, Mr. Anand. Before we move on, I still want to know a little more about the ITC Narmada. What is the most Gujarati thing about ITC Narmada?
I think is the way that the structure has been defined, right? Which is perhaps absolutely unique, and you've got to go and experience it. You find in the interiors, a lot of every corner of it reflects some part of Gujarat, etc. We've done a lot of work on Gujarati cuisine. The uniforms are Gujarati, etc. So you really feel Gujarat, right? Right, whether it's the steps that are famous for Gujarat, or whether it is the arches, etc. Every part of it that you see is from Gujarat in it. And that's really what fascinates me about that hotel. Again,
And
it's a small plot. It's a 2-acre plot, and a very efficiently built hotel. It has 300 rooms on 2 acres.
it sounds absolutely fantastic, Mr. Anand. But such hotels do not get launched without the support of your loyal customers and the sincerity of your teams. Can you tell us in a nutshell a little about the employee welfare schemes that you put in place during the uncertain times of COVID in order to keep the faith of your employees going strong?
Yeah. I think that one of the things I learned right as a management trainee, and it's obvious common sense, but I think it needs to be reiterated. As you know, I began my career as a management trainee in ITC. And the first thing we are taught is that people, be it the customer or be it the associate, are both part of the product. So the customer sitting next to you, depending on how he's dressed, etc., reflects the personality of the hotel. Am I right? What sort of customer? So he's also part of your product. More importantly, just as there is the physical product, the employee is a very large part of your product. Therefore, in our success lies their success. There are studies that go back 20 years, 25 years, and I'm an extensive reader. I remember this very clear Harvard Business Review study where it looked at, they did a research and put in a whole lot of steps to increase the employee satisfaction index. And they arrived at a formula that an X amount of raise in employee satisfaction index led to X plus Y in guest satisfaction index, which led to X plus Y plus Z in profits, right? So a very clear relation. But that apart, I think ITC, apart from being a part of the product, ITC is always cared for its customers. I'm a product. I've been in ITC 43 years, etc., and loved every moment of it. So I think that the moment the crisis came, and as the World Tourism Organization has said, that the first statistics on tourism were written in 1950, and since then there's never been a crisis that bad. We don't know anything before that, right? Because there were no. So moment we realized that we were in a crisis, we realized we were able to anticipate sort of the intensity of the crisis well before the lockdown came. A week before, we had sort of shut down offices, moved people work from home, used the week before the lockdown to make people comfortable in their home, provide them with necessary computers, networks, Wi-Fi, whatever they wanted, etc. But that's one part of it, that work must go on, etc. Number of steps that we took, and I'm very proud of what the team did. I remember staying up with the team at midnight, at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. We've got one bed at Medanta. We managed 2 in this place. We managed that, but we don't have an ambulance. But the ambulance needs an oxygen. Okay, can we take an oxygen cylinder or a ventilator from our guest house, put it in the ambulance, shift it? That's the sort of work that all my colleagues were up to all night, just to make sure that our associates are comfortable, their families are comfortable. Amongst other measures, we tied up at the companies except vaccination camps. So we didn't want. So I was part of a task force that was set up by the chairman, Mr. Sanjeev Puri, to look at procurement of vaccination about 2 months before the vaccination even came, or 3 months before the vaccination came. That is it possible for corporates to buy vaccination, and within us, can we prioritize who needs the vaccination, both from a country's point of view, company's point of view, family point of view, right? In some families, it's the elderly people who may require it, etc. Set up that, negotiated with various people. Camps were held, and I think we were amongst the first company to complete vaccination of almost everybody, and ours included the immediate family also. Awareness sessions through healthcare experts. We had healthcare experts, and every second day they were either broadcasts or podcasts or whatever they were, in conveying or communicating to people. Conversations to connect. There were platforms created C2C. There was loneliness setting in, how people could connect with each other. We paid salaries before time. We made sure that, there was no question of people needed money, people needed for medical reasons, people needed for their families, people needed to travel, etc. In addition to physical health, we brought in consultants to look at the mental health of people. Not easy to work from home, especially in a hotel industry where you've been 18 hours a day on your feet and you're working from home. Enhanced communication. There were SMS blasts to people, some to make them happy, some jokes, some anecdotes, some things that is happening. COVID advisories. Didn't want people, so we had a whole team of 4 or 5 people sitting and putting together how would you sum up what has happened today? Are we going up? Are we going down? There were rumors. There was, somebody would say deaths are so much. This is happening there. We would get 8 or 10 people to sum up. So we give you in a capsule form what is the exact status, etc. And this was shot out to all employees. We had a 24/7 COVID command center, which was directly reporting to Anil and me. And anything out of the ordinary, and we would ring up any time of the day, like we would normally ring up a hotel on a busy day and check what is happening. We would ring up the COVID command center. There were defined parameters, how many cases, which hotels, which cities, how many hospitalized, how many critical, how many there, any hospital beds pending. We had the complete data available. At times, we would come here and realize that we have to be in the COVID command center ourselves. Associates and employees who went out of the way, they were recognized to help colleagues and to help society at large. We began, so we don't forget, we began from the command center to give out wow cards, right? And all these were collected together. Only last weekend, we had the Spotlight Awards, where we honored all those people who'd gone out of the way, either to help a fellow associate or to help society. Amongst many other things, realizing that people are restless at home. Never does a hotel come to a standstill. We conducted thousands of online courses. So for everybody, there was a course. There was a double benefit in it, right? It's there on one hand, the associate was kept busy, right? On the other hand, it was a great opportunity to use this downturn to enhance knowledge of people. And we use subjects that you normally would not, digital marketing for everybody, right? All of us, times have changed and some of us belong to the old school, etc. What is the metaverse? And yet, at the same time, back to basics, right? Going all the way back to food and beverages, I would have learned 13 courses or 14 courses of a French menu, the wines, this, that. So people could spend 6 and there was no compulsion, right? All these courses were made available to people. Their time, their will, their agenda, their scope, this is available to you should you want. So these are just some of the measures that I can mention. But I think at the end of it, I remember going to a hotel with Anil about a month back, and I got a call that the whole union wants to come and see you. And one of the hotels that has we've sort of had few problems, not too many, etc. So I immediately summoned the area manager and the GM, and I was in that hotel and said that, is there a problem? Is there something pending with these people? They said no, but I said that in any case, we have to meet them. So Anil, myself, and Atul was there, and the area manager. And all the union said, we just came to thank you and the company. We came to thank you for ITC for what you all did for us. We are absolutely, we don't know what to say. Words can't be said. Now, coming from the union of, who are supposed to do the opposite, at least for optics' sake, in public to thank us and thank ITC, not me, thank ITC at large, to say, yes. I think was the biggest testament that we could have that our efforts have not gone to vain.
So it's suitably established, Mr. Anand, that I have never seen any hotel group care about its employees as the ITC does, and it shows. Let's now focus a little bit on the other side of the coin, the loyalty of your customers. Now, a little funny story. I remember visiting the ITC Grand Maratha just as things began to open up, and I saw toothpicks placed in the elevators. The foodie that I am, and given how much I love Indian food, my first thought was that the hotel had placed kebabs for guests in the elevators. Of course, the toothpicks were meant to press the elevator buttons without actually touching them. There were also foot pedals outside to summon the lifts. How hard did you have to work to win back the trust of your guests and make them come back to the hotel
again? So a couple of things, I think first of all, we had to come up with something credible, right? And times have changed now. We had to come, moments of truth became moments of trust, right? And a moment of truth would be a moment of trust. It is trust that is going to get the customer back. And we had broken up our entire strategies, and we broke ourselves into 3 teams when this happened. One was the survival team. The survival team is doing what exactly I told you, looking after the associates, right? Looking at what are the sort of needs that are required, how to keep the hotel going, should the AC be on or off, otherwise the hotel will smell when you open it, thousands of things like this. Then there was a revival team. A revival team was working that how can we bring forward the business? How can we give confidence to the customer that we are a safe hotel, right? And then there was the thrival team, that once we begin to thrive, how are we going to take it? So there were 3 very clear teams that were working on 3 different aspects of this. The revival team, of course, was looking at what we call the V Assure program. The V Assure program was where I said we have to convert moments of truth to moments of trust. Now, we didn't only have to fight germs here, but we had to fight perceptions here, right? We had to remove perceptions. To give you a few examples, that in our industry, cleanliness was always invisible. It was at the back of the house. But now we had to create theaters of cleanliness, that people come up in front, that they can see that things are being cleaned, etc. But that put aside, we again had a team of people, and no credit to us. We searched the globe. Luckily, the internet is a global brain available today. We had the time, our hotels were closed. We looked at every small hotel in the world and what we could pick up and what practice. Somebody had a mask. Somebody, because the mask was covered, had the picture of the person here. Somebody would have a badge, I've been vaccinated. Somebody had an elevator. All these ideas were picked up. They were not necessarily created by us, some were, etc. We chose the best of these ideas together and brought together a what we assure program. This program, in turn, was certified by DMV, the world's first program of its kind to be certified, whether it was how a room is made, how room service will function, how associates will come in, what are the checks that are done, what are the sterilization measures, what are the chemicals that are used, etc. It defined an entire gamut. And it's, if I may take leave of modesty, one of the best read modules I've done. And we would work, all of us would be on Zoom calls from 7 in the morning till midnight, 1 o'clock, first gathering information, connecting, discussing, putting it together, implementing, training people. And it went training 8,000 people, because when people begin to come back, right, you've got to put your word, right? And they've got to deliver what you have promised. And so this We Show program, I think, and of course, it went public. People tweeted about it. People came. Influencers like yourselves were invited also to come and see and sample it for yourself. Began to give assurance to people that we are safe. Every room next to you would be kept vacant. Your room is sealed till you enter. We would not service the room while you're present. Our staff is vaccinated. Just about everything. I don't like to call it social distancing, because we are in the business of bringing society together, and not, I call it safe distancing. So safe distancing measures were kept all along in dining tables. Coffee shops moved to banquet halls so that you could have larger coffee shops for people to have breakfast. So hosts of men, and every day somebody from the team, irrespective of the level he was, would sort of come up with an idea. There was a process to funnel this idea to a central pair, and where it was discussed, and all these incorporated to create what was the We Show program. In sum, I'd like to say that we were very quick in reassuring the customer or our guests that we are ready to welcome them back, and that their safety is of our concern. And very few, I don't remember of a case where a person comes and says that I stayed in your hotel and because of you that I ended up getting, I don't remember such a case at all. Right.
And what a
I'm sure.
splendid job you did, Mr. Anand, because I remember you becoming suddenly the envy of every hotelier in town just as the first wave of COVID subsided. Your ITC Grand Bharat just outside Gurgaon filled up to record numbers. Room rates went through the roofs, and I remember your inventory was sold out. What was the secret of that magic?
Interesting that you are half an hour away from Gurgaon, you're 1 hour away from Delhi, right? B, you don't need to go through the 3 hours or 4 hours of the airport this side and 4 hours of the airport that side. C, the safety of an aircraft or the airport for that matter, right? Here you drive in your own car. D, 400 acres of land or 350 acres of land. Each house is independent. 5, the assurance that the We Show program gave you, right, that you would be safe. Now here, you're not walking in the lobby. There's no lobby. You're literally walking in on the golf course. Or you're walking on the greens, etc. So no secret. People wanted to get away. You're fed up of staying at home. This was the greatest getaway you could get away. There's no airfare. There's no queuing up at airlines or airports, etc., which were high contaminators, high spreaders of the COVID, etc. So no secret. And Delhi is only one part of it. Delhi and Gurgaon are one part of it. Look at the feeder market around Delhi within 5 hours. Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Chandigarh, and Amritsar, Lucknow, Kanpur, and Agra. Right? Delhi is surrounded. Delhi's very few people realize that Delhi is very, very well located. Right? And over the years, credit to our government, highways have substantially improved. Right? So when a person from Jalandhar who would normally have gone to Chandigarh and taken a flight overseas, drove down here. He realized that, I've never been in India. The roads are so brilliant, etc. And so I think that, of course, Grand Bharat was a success for that reason. It was a getaway. It was isolated. It was just ideal to sort of isolate and yet be connected, as I call it, right? You could do both of it, family getaway, break the monotony, etc., etc. But I think that the biggest gain that the country will have from COVID is that something we've been harping about for years, that many people have today begun to love their country more than they ever loved it before. We've always believed that this country has the greatest assets to offer, right? And I sent a team of people to one of our hotels for New Year, and this is a group of people that would always go abroad. Now, they would call me. So I got a call from them at 11 o'clock at night, and they said, "We're sitting in this lovely place in Kashmir, right? It's more beautiful than Switzerland. We spent 1/20th of the airfare to come. There's still 1 hour to go for dinner, right? If I was overseas, I would have had to have my dinner by 7 because I don't think I'll get anything after it. I can get up at 10 and still get a masala dosa in the morning, and nobody will tell me breakfast is closed, right?" And he says, "I'm 1 hour away from Delhi." He says, "Why haven't I ever done this for 40 years? Now, there are many such people. My family and I didn't. We normally go abroad, went to Jaipur, took a 7-seater, 8-seater, we are a large family, drove to Ranthambore, right? Drove back and drove through Rajasthan in a 7 or an 8-seater hired bus. Fantastic roads. We realize the importance of India. And wayside amenities everywhere, something you and I have always been worried about. Would there be toilets for the ladies, etc.? We are a changed country, and people have experienced it. So, if India had 11 million inbound, we had 26 million outbound. My guess is we managed to stop at least half of them from going out and seeing India, because there's so much more to see in it.
Such a positive way of looking at it. But you're right. It was a discovery of India for a lot of Indian travelers. COVID was, of course, trying for every industry. If I were to ask you to explain broadly its impact on hospitality in India, how would you describe it?
The impact of the impact of COVID. We are an industry that was the first affected. I don't think any other industry. And on the eve of every hotel opening, and I've been involved in the opening of about 20 hotels. I'm sitting with the team and saying, "This is the day. From tomorrow, we'll never close," right? Because when you open a hotel, it never closes. It's a 24/7. Here, life came to a standstill. Hotels were closed, etc., etc. So, but I think that the industry rose to the occasion very fast. In our particular case, as I told you, we had the survival, revival, and the and the thrival, etc. Began to create new avenues for revenue. We had a quotation which I keep telling my team, and somewhere that I read it, that the lion doesn't eat grass for want of game in the jungle, right? So we are not going to wait. So we are going to create new revenue streams. That's where we began to look at gourmet deliveries, right? How could we become delivery cloud kitchens? We had it all. Why should others create it? We are hoteliers are this thing in it. Look, use that opportunity to think of, and as they say that in every adversity there's an opportunity, and I think we created our own. Whether it is costs, we were able to streamline costs and give us a better tomorrow as we go ahead. We created new revenue streams in terms of staycations, vacations, sleepcations, right? Friendcations, right? And all. Now, there was a time that, if I was to give you rough statistics of some, in a particular, if the number of non-contracted business, right? If the non-contracted business was, say, about 100 rooms a day, right? Now, non-contracted is that I'm not a corporate and so I don't have an agreement with you. I decide to go on a holiday, or I'm a very small company and I decide, so I don't have a contract with you. Now, non-contracted business, if it was 100 rooms a day, during the pandemic, it became 800 rooms a day. So you created a demand, a lot of it, again, as I told you, staycations, vacations, whatever you want to call it, etc. Right? So the industry rose to it, and I think we did. A lot of this is we may have recovered. The pandemic may, I hopefully, inshallah, be behind us, but they slipped back a little, but it's still, we've created a very large segment. So I think, as I told you again, going back to domestic travel and local city travel, People in the same city realize that they can take a break. They don't have to travel for 3 days, check into a hotel. It's a big change from home. I don't have to cook. I don't worry. Maid I, wo I, dud I, ye I, ani I. You don't have to worry about it, right? So we created new segments of the market. So I think the hotel industry has responded very, very well. I think, but from a customer point of view, I think that the biggest realization that was that, and this is where service is going to change substantially, and many of us, and all of us, I'm sure, in the industry were the first to change it. Pre-pandemic, right, it was believed that I'm healthy if I'm not sick. Right? Post-pandemic, it's all about immunity. Did I get it? If I didn't get it, my immunity was strong. If I get it, was it mild because my immunity was strong? Or if I got it, was it very severe because my immunity was not strong? So it's all about the number one thing. There's no point in having anything else in life if your health is not right. So health has become moved to number one. Now, connected with health is everything else, right? To get my immunity up, if I want to be healthy, right? Number one, I can't be healthy in a society that's not healthy. Sustainability becomes important, right? There are cases, and I've read of two cases, I think one of Cornell and one Harvard or somebody else, where very clearly they have said that in various American cities where they analyzed that the intensity of the COVID infection was directly proportional to the pollution of that city. Right. So if you were in a city that was a little more relatively, none of those cities are highly polluted, right? The intensity of your COVID was more. Now, cut that long story short, but to say that very clearly people have realized that sustainable, I cannot be well in an environment that is not well, and therefore sustainability has moved to the forefront of everything else. But what does it affect? It affects the internal air quality, the quality that I breathe there, amongst many other things, right? In fact, the last survey that I know, and this is not a global survey, this is a survey in India, of course, amongst a certain income group, where 75% of the people will only stay in hotels, right, that are sustainable hotels, etc. I think we were fortunate enough to sort of look at sustainability, and we looked at beyond sustainability. We looked at something called responsible luxury, and there was a choice that we had to take. We were not a luxury chain. We were the welcome group. We were rebranding to luxury collection. ITC was always green. And we had a choice that should we be luxury or should we be green? Now, our DNA, from where we came, our pedigree ITC was, if we didn't see green, we saw red, right? So we said that, what do we do? And at that time, it was believed that luxury and green could never go together. If you want to be green, you have to throttle your water. You don't change your bed sheet for 3 days, or you don't change your 4 days, right? You sleep, you don't have a shower bath, right? You don't change your towels. You sleep at 24 degrees. Your AC is switched off when you go off, so you suffer for half an hour when you come back. This was all. So here was a question. Again, no credit to me, but the team and I sat down and we said that should we be luxury or should we be responsible? We said, no, we'll take the path less traveled. And we combined the two, and we created the word responsible luxury, which encompasses everything: your sleep, your health, what you eat, what you drink, among sustainability, etc. Again, the happiest day of our lives was ITC Gardenia was being built, right? Mm-hmm. So it became a platinum hotel, which was sustainable. You can't have a better testimonial than that, etc. And on many awards was acknowledged for being the most luxurious hotel in the country when it opened. So there, it proved what we wanted to do, that it's possible to combine luxury and responsibility, and the two can coexist.
This Anand, sustainability and how ITC put the focus on responsible luxury much before everyone else, much before it became a millennial buzzword, was one of my questions. But since you've addressed it, I'm going to just ask you very briefly, do you feel vindicated? There was a time, like you yourself said right now, luxury and green living or taking care of the planet didn't really go hand in hand. But everyone knows today that anything luxury today must also be responsible towards the planet. Do you feel vindicated? Very briefly.
Absolutely. And I think that the proof of the pudding also lies in, and sometimes management teaches you that what gets measured gets managed. So we converted this into a science and now began to measure our carbon footprint and to see what it is. On one hand, you're measuring your TripAdvisor score, etc., which are your luxury scores or your relative quality scores. And we began, then you measure your profitability scores, but we have one more measure, which we measure our carbon footprint, etc. Interestingly, that according to the Paris Agreement in 2030, right, the Paris Agreement COP21, the hotel industry had said that they would reduce carbon emissions by 66% on the baseline of 2010 by 2030 and by 90% by 2050, right? ITC Hotels is already exceeded the 2030 targets, right? So we are already below that and we are well on our way to achieving a 90% target, right? In terms of, it can be measured in terms of carbon emission per overnight stay of a guest, or it can be measured in carbon emission per square meter of property that you own. So on both the parameters, they are already well ahead of what the industry standards are, etc. So I think that we managed to achieve what we have without compromising the luxury of the guest. So my message to the guest is come, splurge, enjoy yourself, bask in the luxury of ITC hotels, and yet you will leave with the carbon footprint because back end, there is a lot working for you. The energy is coming from renewable sources. The water is being water harvested, being recycled. Waste is 100% recycled. We don't use plastic at all. We're a zero plastic this thing. Food comes from within 40, 50, 60 kilometer radius, etc. That's another interesting. So when we were looking at responsible luxury, we said that one of the things was on, which most people don't realize, is that food has a very large carbon footprint when it travels. Right? An amazing carbon footprint when it travels. So we came up with something called local love. Now, local love is that in every city there is some local favorites. In Calcutta, it's the Nizam's Kati Kebab or the Puchka or the Matya Bhuj Biryani. In Bombay, it's the Bada Pav. Right? In Delhi, it would be perhaps the Chana Bhatura or something like that. So we came across and we had food Sherpas who went out and searched for the best that there was in every city and sort of tried to benchmark that. You can never benchmark a person who only does that job. And hats off to them because they've been doing it for generations. But they became sort of our role model and we benchmark it. So in every 10 card, in every coffee shop, we have the local board menu. Now, what has this done? And this is exactly what I think is what we had in mind when we did responsible luxury. Now, when you have this local love menu, a person who comes to Calcutta says, hey, I haven't had a kati kebab for a long time. I can't go to the streets because I'm a little beyond that now. I don't know whether my stomach will take it or not, but I've grown up on it or I love it. Or that's Calcutta. I want to experience that dab chingdi and go back, which I may not because I'm only here for one day and could have experience. So 65 to 70 people begin to order the local love. What is the end result of this? Again, I told you what gets measured gets managed, right? 60% of the people that have eaten that, right, have had, they say, the best meal that they've had, right? Because the great experience. They've eaten Calcutta, eaten Bori biryani in Bombay or whatever it is, etc. But most importantly and subtly, had he not seen the local love, perhaps he would have ordered a smoked salmon, which had traveled from 7,000 miles or 10,000 miles and left a carbon footprint. When we measured it, the procurement, the footprint of our purchase as a result of local love has reduced by 60 kilometers. So here is an ideal example, luxury, experience, and so it's possible for the two to coexist. You just have to think it through.
Absolutely fantastic.
We are not even halfway where we'd like to be, etc. Every day we learn. Remember, life never stops teaching, so we never stop learning. Right? And every day we pick up from our guests, we pick up from somebody, and every day we come, hey, why didn't we do this? We still have plastic bottles in the room. The first to introduce the Shaikh, the Shunya Aqua, and so on and so forth. And name it. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and zero waste.
Well, we can see your pride. It's palpable, and responsible luxury is definitely a feather in ITC Hotels' cap, and not just in India, but the world over. Something we're extremely proud of. And I talk to my hotelier friends in other parts of the world about how ITC does it. Fantastic, and many congratulations for that. Before we end, let's talk a little about luxury. With customer preferences, Mr. Anand, organized and recorded, butlers, food Sherpas, turn-down services. Sometimes I think Indian standards of luxury today surpass those in other parts of the world. Do you think hotels in India spoil you and make it impossible for you to enjoy a perfectly acceptable hotel where the standard of service is not as dialed up?
Absolutely. I think that we pride ourselves that, and it goes back to Atiti Devo Bhava, and it's part of our culture, and you and I practice it at our homes. So at work even more. I mean, a guest at home, irrespective of whom it may be, is treated like God, and so it's again part of our DNA. It's part of our orientation. No, I don't think so. There was a time that I, as a Indian hotelier, and I'm not wearing my ITC cap, as an Indian hotelier, was most concerned that now with this service that is sort of governed by distancing and disinfecting, etc., not being able to come close, contactless service, are we going to lose our edge, etc., right? And thought about it that that if everything becomes a machine, and you check in on a machine, check out on a machine, you don't meet, so where is the human interaction? Are we going to lose our edge, etc.? So then I came across with this, that you don't touch the guest, you touch the heart, right? And let me give you an ideal example of it. And which better example than coming back to Mother India, that you can shake hands and you can do namaste. The namaste is just as warm and touches the heart even more than a shake hands, right? So everything has an answer to it, etc. We've now got to find ways to touch the heart of our guests, right? And not physically touch the guest as such, and see how we can do it. And nobody better than the Indian hotelier to do that.
Finally, Mr. Anand, what is the biggest lesson COVID has taught the luxury and hospitality industry? One that we must never forget.
I think to me the biggest one has come that always be ready for change, right? Always be ready, and it comes in there that as Lennon said, that there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen, right? And this is exactly what happened here. And I think that we had to be swift, we had to be nimble. There was times of no revenue, but we had to look at. And to me, I think the biggest learning was, while we were doing all this, right, one eye on the microscope, the other on the telescope, right? The microscope was what's happening to your people, what's happening to the costs, how you can cut them down, and the telescope, what's going to happen in the future. Service is going to be redefined, low touch service, hotels are going to be redefined, sustainability is going to take a high, right? You can't do this A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And so on and so forth. You're going to come into a new hoteliering. So I think it was important that you didn't just have to focus on this, the microscope and the periscope or telescope both together.
Mr. Anand, what an insightful conversation. We may not say it often, and you're definitely too humble to acknowledge it yourself, but all of us are extremely proud of the high standards of luxury ITC puts out, hotel after hotel, visit after visit, day after day. There's a freshness in its approach, and just like your employees feel like they're part of a family, let me tell you, your guests feel it too. Thank you for setting the bar so high, and thank you for your time and this conversation.
I'm delighted to hear that. Lovely talking to you, Jamal. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire team at the Hindustan Times, thank you for participating in the HT Tourism Summit 2022. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Good afternoon and namaste.